Let's see the recording.
Mic test.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hi, Aaron.
Mic test. I'm only the computer guy.
Pardon me? Okay. remember-
Podium test.
She's going to log into.
Tell support what to
Zoom,
do.
right? Is she coming into the courtroom? No. Got it. Thank you.
Oh, no. Should be second nature. Yeah, that was coming up. But it looks good. I like it.
That's that.
Technology wise, yeah.
Hold on, I'm checking to see if this is the way off.
That makes sense.
I'm not just worried about that right now.
That's okay, got it. Okie dokie.
Let's see. So when they construct something,
Okay.
All rise, Supreme Court of Law is now in session. The Honorable Chief Justice Robert J. Torres presiding.
Today, good morning. Good morning, councils and parties in the courtroom and councils that are appearing virtually. You may be seated. This is the status and disqualification hearing for our February session. Will the clerk please call the first case?
CRA 22-002, People of Guam, Plaintiff Appellee v. Juan Faisal Mendiola, AKA John F. Mendiola, Defendant Appellant. Appearing for Defendant Appellant are Attorney Joseph C. Rosano and Joshua D. Walsh. Appearing for Plaintiff Appellee is Attorney Marianne Wallachuk. The panel consists of Chief Justice Robert J. Torres, Associate Justice F. Philip Carbolito, and Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman.
Good morning, Ms. Wallachuk, who's appearing in the courtroom to test our hybrid hearing. Thank you for coming here in person today, and Mr. Walsh appearing from his office. Are there any objections to the panel as constituted or to the date and time of oral argument? Ms. Wallachuk?
No objections, Your Honor.
Mr. Walsh, on behalf of Mr. Mendiola?
Good morning, Mr. Chief Justice. No objections to the panel and no objections to the date. I would just like to note one thing for the court, Your Honor, if I may. Mr. Rosano, who will be arguing this matter, is set to start a federal criminal trial with visiting Judge Kuhnauer on February 7th. It's anticipated that that matter is going to last 4 to 5 weeks. February 20th is a federal holiday, so we anticipate no problems with Joe being able to participate in the oral argument before the Guam Supreme Court. The only issue that may arise is if Judge Kuhnauer decides that he wants to ignore the federal holiday and have everybody proceed. If that happens, I'm just alerting the court to the necessity of perhaps a motion from Joe. But other than that, we're anticipating being able to have Joe argue on the 20th of February, Mr. Chief Justice.
Thank you for letting us know that in advance. Please alert Judge Kuhnauer that Joe does have the argument. Mr. Rosano will have the argument scheduled that day.
We absolutely, Mr. Chief Justice, we're doing that the very first day he's on island at the pretrial conference.
And I'll send him an email as well, reminding him that there should be federal territory cooperation in this regard. Thank you, Mr. Rosano. Thank you, Ms. Wallachuk.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Will the clerk please call the next case, and presiding justice in that case will be Justice Carbolito, and he will handle this status and disqualification hearing on this matter.
CVA 19-003, Antonio B. Juanpat International Airport Authority, Plaintiff Appellant v. DFS Guam LP, Defendant Appellee. Appearing for Plaintiff Appellant are Attorney Kathleen V. Fisher, Attorney Genevieve P. Rapadas, and Attorney E. Christian Calvo. Appearing for Defendant Appellee are Attorney Maurice Suh, Attorney G. Patrick Seville, and Attorney Joyce C.H. Tang. The panel consists of Presiding Justice F. Philip Carbolito, Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman, and Justice Pro Tempore Joseph N. Camacho.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councils, before we discuss the scheduling of this case, just for the information of the court, I'd like to know from appellant's counsel who actually will be arguing the case on the particular date and time that we will select. First, with appellant counsel.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Good morning. As of now, I will be arguing on behalf of the AB Wampat International Airport Authority.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rapadas. And on behalf of the defendant appellee.
Your Honor, it would be Maurice Suh.
Okay, will he be doing that via Zoom? So we're going to have a hybrid hearing, or is he going to be appearing in person?
Your Honor, I'm glad you asked the question. I was going to ask you at the end of this hearing what is the court's preference on that? From the notice we received, it looked like it was an in-person hearing. So he was, of course, planning to be here in person. But if arguing remotely is an option,
I will leave that up to Mr. Suh. We have the capability now to have a hybrid hearing. As you can see, Justice Torres and I are in the court, and Justice Merriman is joining us remotely. And so, counsels can discuss it with the client. It's your discretion. However, we do have the capability to do the hybrid hearing. Of course, the preference is always to have it in person. The dynamics is in my personal opinion, is better. However, the hybrid hearing doesn't take anything away from the effectiveness of oral arguments, in my opinion. So if you
Okay.
could just discuss it, Mr. Seville, with your co-counsel, and just let the court know for our information so that we will be set up to have a hybrid hearing, should you decide. And if not, then we will be informed accordingly.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, with that, the briefing in this matter's been completed. There's a pending request for judicial notice that was filed on November 7th. Counsels, can this matter be resolved when the case is resolved, or is this something that needs to be resolved prior to oral arguments? I'm asking because I haven't looked at it.
Your Honor, I believe that it could be resolved at the time of oral argument.
Okay, all right.
I agree, Your Honor.
I'm sorry if I understand correctly. This can be decided at the same time the case is disposed of? Ms. Rapadas?
Yes, I believe so, Your Honor. I think it's a pretty limited request.
All right. Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. So you've heard the clerk call the justices that's going to be sitting on this case. And I spoke to Justice Pro Tem Joseph Camacho, and he intends to appear personally for the information of the counsels. And the case is scheduled for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 at 10 a.m. Any objection, counsels, to the panel as constituted and the date and time for oral arguments?
Your Honor, no objections to the date and time.
Your Honor, no objections by DFS.
All right, so the only matter outstanding is whether or not Mr. Sa is going to appear personally or via Zoom and virtually. And the court will be informed, and hopefully you can do that, within the next week or so.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Your
Thank
Honor, I'm
Yes.
sorry if I may. Although I will be arguing, as you know, we do also have off-island counsel. So perhaps that's something Mr. Seville and I could work out. I intend to appear in person, but if there is a possibility that off-island counsel could also appear, we may like to use that option as well.
And Ms. Rapadas, you're referring to Attorney Kathleen Fisher?
Either Ms. Fisher or Mr. Calvo. They are both located in San Francisco.
I see. All right. Okay. That's fine with the court. I just asked as a courtesy if you could just let us know. So it helps me also just in having that information.
Of course, Your Honor, we will do so.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Rapadas. I don't have anything else, counsels. And so I turn it over back to Chief Justice Torres.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry. Okay. I don't have my phone.
All right, will the clerk please call the next case, please?
CVA 22-004 in the matter of the application for registration of title to estate number 2959, formerly a part of estate number 49, NKA lot number 10191, municipality of Dededo. Appearing for the petitioner appellant is attorney Glenn B. Nelson, administrator of the estate of Juan de Torres Espinosa Sr., aka Juan Espinosa de Torres, senior pro se. Appearing for the respondent appellee, Bayview 4 LLC, is attorney Mitchell V. Thompson. Appearing for the respondent appellee, Blue Ocean Development LLC, is attorney John A. Visosky. The panel consists of presiding Justice F. Philip Carbolito, Justice Pro Tempore Alexandra Castro, and Justice Pro Tempore John A. Maglonia.
Justice Carbolito is also the presiding justice on this case.
All right, good morning, counsels. And so the briefing in this matter has been completed and there are no pending motions. Just for the information of the lawyers, Chief Justice Alex Castro and Justice John Manglonia have notified the court that they intend to appear remotely for appellate arguments. And just so councils are not surprised when you appear in person on the day of appellate arguments. That is the notice we received to date, and if anything changes, the clerk will advise councils. So the case, the matter has set for oral arguments for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023 at 10 a.m. And first, Mr. Thompson. Well, we have is Mr. Nelson, first of all, is Mr. Nelson appearing on the virtual screen? I'm sorry.
He is-
Yes, I am
Okay.
present.
All right, okay. I just wanted to first note that for the record. And so, and Mitch Thompson for Appellee Bayview and John Visosky for Appellee Blue Ocean Development. Let's start first with Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, do you have any objection to the date and time of appellate oral arguments?
No objection, Your Honor.
And will you be arguing this, you're appearing pro se, I note that, and you are going to be appearing in person in our courtroom to present your case. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, sorry, I'm kind of blocking myself out here. And so, okay, and Attorney Mitch Thompson for Appellee Bayview. Any objection to the date and time of appellate arguments?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. And Mr. Visosky for Blue Ocean Development, are you also going to be presenting oral arguments? You're splitting time. How are the appellate's counsels handling oral arguments? I'm sorry, you're muted, Mr. Visosky.
I apologize. Mr. Thompson and I have not discussed exactly how we would split the time, Your Honor. We would split the time. I anticipate Mr. Thompson will use the bulk of the time.
All right, and you understand that you are allotted 30 minutes for appellee's arguments.
I understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you, counsels. And if you could notify the clerk ahead of time so that we are all on the same page on appellate arguments and we can plan accordingly.
Yes, Your Honor, we'll advise the clerk.
All right, counsels. So we're all set for the date and time as scheduled. And Mr. Nelson, we look forward to seeing you in the courtroom on the date and time scheduled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, will the clerk please call the next case?
CRA 20-012, People of Guam, Plaintiff Appellee v. William John Pinalla, Defendant Appellant. Appearing for the Defendant Appellant is Peter C. Perez. Appearing for the Plaintiff Appellee is Attorney Jordan Lawrence Paloon. The panel consists of Chief Justice Robert J. Torres, Associate Justice F. Philip Carbolito, and Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman.
Good morning, councils. Mr. Paris, I'm happy to see that you were able to get your internet issues resolved. Thank you for notifying the clerk in advance of the possible issues with that. Briefing has been complete in this matter. There is a pending motion that the court has not ruled upon yet on motion to strike the appellee's second supplemental brief. The court intends to, unless parties say otherwise, to dispose of that motion as part of its decision in this case. You've heard the panel is constituted and oral argument is scheduled for Thursday, February 23rd at 10 in the morning. Is there any objection to the panel has constituted or the date and time for oral argument? Mr. Paris first. You're muted, Mr. Paris.
It appears that from the chat that Mr. Perez's microphone is not working.
Okay. Mr. Perez, you can do a thumbs up if you have if you don't have an objection to the panel as constituted or the date and time of oral argument. And we'll let the record reflect that if you're not able to get your microphone working. Can you hear us though, Mr. Paris? All right. You hold up the beauty of technology. It works when it works. And when it doesn't, Mr. Paris, can you, let me see if I can. Are you able to call in on one of the numbers? That are listed in the Zoom, and you can join audio by Zoom. Here it is. Can you hold it closer? Is there a date the week of the 27th is what you're asking? We will have to check the justices' calendars, Mr. Paris, and the clerk of court. I know that the next case is scheduled for the 27th. Mr. Pauloon is on that case as well. There is, and Mr. Cunliffe. Mr. Cunliffe is present. Mr. Cunliffe, would you mind switching to the 24th? And switching dates with Mr. Paris, who will then proceed on the 27th, and you can proceed on the, on the 23rd at 10 o'clock, Mr. Cunliffe?
Let me look at my calendar real quick, Your Honor.
All right, if you please, if you would indulge the court and Mr. Paris, I'm sure he would appreciate it.
The 23rd looks fine for me, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Pauloon, you don't have a problem. You're scheduled for the 23rd and the 27th. So the fact that you'll do the case that you have with Mr. Cunliffe, and we'll get to that RSA. I'm sorry, in the interest of DSSSMJ, we can do that on the 23rd and do Mr. Paris's case on the 27th. In the William versus People versus Pinala.
I don't see any reason why that's a problem at this time.
All right, so Mr. Paris, that's fine. We'll do your case. The case will be on the 27th then, instead of the 23rd at 10 a.m. in the morning. And so let's go out of order, clerk, and let's call the matter CVA 22055, which is in the interest of DSSS, please. Before we leave, I just want to check, Mr. Paris, and if you don't mind nodding your head or putting a note up there, you have no objection to the panel as constituted in your case, right? All right, we're good. Okay, thank you. And no objection, Mr. Pauloon?
No objection at this time. As to the court reserving on the motion, I don't necessarily as well. I don't have a particular position, but if I think that it needs to be resolved first, I will file something accordingly.
All right, thank you. All right, let's call the next case, please, the out of order.
CVA 22-005 in the interest of DSSSMJ and SS minors, real parties in interest, AH, respondent appellant, Government of Guam, petitioner appellee. Appearing for the respondent appellant, AH, is Attorney F. Randall Cunliffe. Appearing for the petitioner appellee, Government of Guam, is Attorney Jordan Lawrence Pauloon. The panel consists of Chief Justice Robert J. Torres, Associate Justice F. Philip Carbolito, and Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman.
Good morning, counsel. Thank you, Mr. Cunliffe, for accommodating the court and changing it. The date and time of oral argument of this case will be February 23rd at 10 a.m. You've heard the panel as constituted. Any objection to the panel as constituted, Mr. Cunliffe?
No, Your Honor, nor the time.
And Mr. Pauloon?
No objections.
The court notes that there is a pending request for judicial notice that's been filed on December 19th, and the court is considering that and will make its decision accordingly. Is there anything else on this case?
No, Your Honor.
For the record, I intend on arguing it, but there's a possibility, there's some internal discussions that somebody from the family division themselves might like to argue it, but if that's the case, they will file it. I will have them file an entry of appearance for that purpose.
Thank you for alerting us to that, and please ask them to do so a few days in advance, Mr. Paulo. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I might,
Yes, Mr. Summerfleck. Do you have?
I appear on calendar in this matter, Your Honor. It was my office that was appointed Guam Legal Services. I potentially will not be on island on the 23rd. So it may be someone else from my office that will be appearing.
And that's just appearing as a matter of interest. I don't believe that briefing was filed by your office.
No, Your Honor, it would just be as a matter of interest.
All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Summerfleck. Will the clerk please call the next case?
CVA 22-012 in the matter of the estate of Joaquin Cruz Leon Guerrero, deceased. Appearing for the appellant, Elizabeth Raposa Leon Guerrero, is attorney John A. Visosky. Appearing for the petitioner appellee, Franklin Leon Guerrero, is attorney Joshua D. Walsh. Appearing is Patrick D. Leon Guerrero, pro se. The panel consists of presiding Justice F. Philip Carbolito, Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman, and Justice Pro Tempore John A. Manglotnia.
All
I
right,
am off this case, and Justice Carbolito is also presiding justice.
thank you, CJ. Again, just for the record, Justice John Manglotnia intends to appear virtually. And is Mr. Patrick Leon Guerrero, who's appearing pro se, on the virtual screen? He is. All right. Okay, Mr. Leon Guerrero, I just wanted to know if you are on the virtual screen. I see that you're still trying to connect to your audio, and we'll allow you the opportunity to state for the record if you have any objection, if you are able to connect. But let's go ahead and proceed. The briefing in this matter there is a reply brief pending, and I assume that appellant John Visosky, that is, do you intend to file a reply brief? I don't even see him on the screen. I think he may have dropped out.
Mr. Justice Carbolito, if I may.
Yes, please, Mr.
It
Walsh.
looks like Mr. Visosky did drop out. I did notice this morning he submitted an email request to the clerk of the court for a 14-day extension on his reply. So I do know he intends on filing his reply, but it's not coming in today, Justice Carbolito.
All right, okay, yeah, we didn't have any record of that, but I'm sure if it is filed, it's probably in the clerk's office. All right, well, we don't have Mr. Visosky, but this case is scheduled for Friday, February 24th at 10 a.m. So, Mr. Walsh, any objection to the panel as constituted and the date and time for oral arguments?
No, Justice Carbolito, that is fine. And I'll just add while I'm speaking that I will be working with Mr. Patrick Leon Guerrero on how we're dividing our time for that appellee's argument. I anticipate he'll want to say a few things as well. So we'll contact the clerk's office about that division of time just as soon as I get an opportunity to speak with Mr. Patrick LG.
All right, and while we're waiting and hopefully Mr. Visosky can join us before we're done discussing this case. I see, Mr. Patrick Leon Guerrero, that your audio is not connected. But can you hear me, sir? I can see you on the screen. Can you hear me? And he seems to have frozen. His screen seems to have frozen. So I know he's appearing pro se and you don't represent him, Mr. Walsh. But if you can contact him and let him know that if he has any objection to the date and time, he needs to submit that in writing. And we'll have the clerk's office to do that just so that burden is not on you. But if you could just, since you are both aligned as appellees.
I think he just reappeared, Justice Carbolito.
All right. Okay, so we now have Mr. Patrick Leon Guerrero. I see that you're connected and can you hear me, sir? Mr. Leon Guerrero, Patrick Leon Guerrero, I see you on our virtual screen and I'm asking can you hear me? I see that you're connected and your audio seems to be turned on. All right. We don't seem to be communicating, although for the record, I note that Mr. Leon Guerrero is on our virtual screen and but he is not responding as to whether or not he can hear or see me. Can you? Okay, you're indicating that you want 5 minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Leon Guerrero, your audio is not working. I cannot hear what you're saying. He seems to be driving, so maybe he's going to go to the side of the road. That's pretty dangerous if you are. So
I will contact him, Justice
All right.
Carbolito, as instructed.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Walsh. And is Mr. Visosky back? He is not. So right now, there has been no written objection to the date and time. I'm sorry, but there is a request for an extension. You're indicating, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, the clerk of court is in the courtroom and Ms. Gutierrez, Ms. Arroyo, if you can just go ahead and address the court.
I can confirm that while we were in this hearing, the clerk's office received a phone call from Mr. Visosky requesting an extension of time to file the reply brief in CVA 22-012. We also have noticed that he's trying to reconnect to this Zoom call.
All right, and what is the time period that he's asking for? Does that
It's a
gonna affect-
telephonic request, so it's a 14-day.
Does that affect the date and time of appellate or arguments? Is he asking for, so everything will proceed as scheduled?
Everything can proceed as scheduled. It will not affect.
And we'll receive it at least 7 days prior to the date and time of oral arguments?
Yes.
Doing the math quickly,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
appears that.
We
that is
should,
the
we
case.
should, Your Honor.
All right, okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Walsh, at this, as we sit here today, appellate arguments will proceed on February 24th at 10 a.m. The court will address the motion to extend the filing of the reply brief. And I don't see us having an objection since we are going to receive it with an adequate time prior to scheduled arguments. And Mr. Chief Justice, I don't have anything else on this case.
All right, thank you. Will the clerk please call the next case? And I am also off that case, and Justice Carbolito will be the presiding justice.
May be excused from the virtual hearing at this time, Mr. Chief
You may
Justice.
be, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
CRA 22-007, People of Guam, Plaintiff Appellant v. Carlos Robert Compton Camacho, Defendant Appellee. Appearing for the Plaintiff Appellant is Attorney Mary Ann Wallachuk. Appearing for the Defendant Appellee is Attorney Randall F. Randall Cunliffe. The panel consists of Presiding Justice F. Philip Carbolito, Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman, and Justice Pro Tempore John A. Maglotnia.
Good morning, councils. Again, for the record, Justice Maglotnia intends to appear virtually for oral arguments. The briefing in this matter is complete. There are no pending motions. And this case is scheduled for Tuesday, February 28th at 10 a.m. Assistant Attorney General Wallachuk, any objection to the date and time of oral argument?
No objection to the panel, Your Honor. And as for the date and time, I was wondering if we could have that moved because we have some people coming in for depositions on those days. So I was like hoping you could accommodate us on the Monday or the Tuesday before, the 20th or the 21st, maybe in the afternoon.
I don't have a calendar with me, and so
So like on the 20th is the Juan Mendiola argument at 10 o'clock. And on the 21st at 10 o'clock is the airport case. So those are the two cases, Monday and Tuesday, that I was hoping we could move this one up if Mr. Conliffe is amenable to that.
You should have asked me to keep
yeah.
Mr. Walsh on board.
Oh, Mr.
Let him
Walsh.
go too early.
The thing is, Your Honor, all the other dates, those are when the depositions are. So 22, 23, 24, 27, 28. So
File a written motion,
File a written
Attorney
motion.
Swalowchuk, so that we can all, this involves a file in pro tem justice.
Yes.
And we need to work with his schedule. So file a motion and suggest dates, and we'll address it accordingly.
May
yes,
I recommend you contact Mr. Walsh
Yes.
too and see if, because if he's on both cases, so as we did with Mr. Cunliffe earlier, obviously as Justice Carbolito indicated, the justices pro tem will have to decide that matter if they're available on that date.
yes, Your Honor, we'll do that.
All
Thank you.
Okay, and Attorney Cunliffe, you'll just have to then see what date and time. In terms of your travel schedule, what about the first week in March, Attorney Cunliffe, and in the event that we move this case to the first week in March? And Attorney Wallachuk too, does that pose any conflicts for you?
No, none, Your Honor. That would be fine.
All right.
Your Honor, I do have a hearing on March 2nd at 10:30 a.m. on a sentencing in a criminal case that has been continued a number of times, and my client really wants to get that done. Other than that, I'm okay. Ms. Wallachuk did send me an email this morning praising me of this issue, and I looked earlier in February, the dates she's proposed, and I'm okay with those dates if the court can work it out. And I have no opposition to, no objection to the panel.
All right, okay, we'll address it when the written motion is filed, so we can consult with our colleague, Justice Manglonia, in reference to his schedule. And he's going to be appearing virtually, so hopefully we can accommodate every.
Thank you,
counsel.
Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, just for the record, I'm going to be off island from February 3rd to the February 12th. So if the hearing is scheduled that time, I'll appear virtually.
All right, no, we're not going to schedule it that early. It's either going to be the date.
No, I meant the motion, her motion hearing.
Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, it's just a motion for to move the oral argument date. And so yeah, there would be no in-person or any type of hearing. We'll just address it and try and arrange the schedule. And the clerk's office will coordinate with councils once we are able to determine Justice Manglonia's availability.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, there's no other matters in reference to this case. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, just. Thank you. Will the clerk please call, Chief Justice Carbolito, do you want to go back and address Mr. Viskovsky and Mr. Leon Guerrero on that other matter if they're both available before we call the next case?
It's Mr. Visovsky. Oh, yes, I see. Okay, Attorney Visovsky. I don't even know which case you're on now.
Can the clerk call that case back on the record, CVA 22-012?
CVA 22-012 in the matter of the estate of Joaquin Cruz Leon Guerrero deceased. Shall I proceed?
Yes, Attorney Visovsky, first of all, any objection to the panel as constituted? And just for, again, the record, it's myself, Justice Merriman, and Justice Pro Tem John A. Manglonia. You can unmute yourself, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, and the date and time for oral arguments in this case is Friday, February 24th at 10 a.m. Any objection first to you, Attorney Visovsky, to the date and time of appellate arguments?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, and we noted earlier when you were not, when you had dropped out, that there is a reply brief pending and that it's been brought to the attention of the court that you have filed for a motion for extension of time to file the reply brief. Is that correct?
Not a motion per se, but I just emailed the clerk to request the extension.
I see, okay. But that will not affect us proceeding with oral arguments, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Okay, so let's see if we can get Mr. Leon Guerrero. I think
He
he's
dropped off
out.
again.
All
He
right.
was there, but he
All
looks
right,
like he's
thank you,
off.
Mr. Vasosky.
I apologize for earlier. I was juggling here, appearances in a different courtroom. I apologize.
All right. Thank you.
All
Just,
right, will the clerk please call the last case of the day?
CVA 22-003, RSA Tumon LLC, Plaintiff Appellee v. Pitt County Memorial Hospital, Inc., Defendant Appellee, and Sharif Antoon Phillips, Defendant Appellant. Appearing for the Defendant Appellant is Sharif Antoon Phillips, MD Pro Se. Appearing for the Plaintiff Appellee are Attorney Anita P. Areola and Attorney William B. Brennan. Appearing for the Defendant Appellant is Attorney Daniel J. Berman. The panel consists of Chief Justice Robert J. Torres, Associate Justice F. Philip Carbolito, and Associate Justice Catherine A. Merriman.
All right, the briefing is complete in this matter. There's no pending motions. You've heard the panel is constituted. The oral argument is scheduled for Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the morning. Any objection to the panel as constituted or the date and time of oral argument, Dr. Phillips?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Brennan? Any
No
objection?
objection on behalf of RSA Tumon, Your Honor. Thank you.
And who will be arguing this case on behalf of the plaintiff appellee from your office?
I'll be arguing this case.
Okay, and Mr. Berman, any objection to the date and time of oral argument of panel is constituted?
Good morning, Your Honor. No objection. Thank you.
Have you and Mr. Brennan talked about allocation of time?
No.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
I believe at the last hearing, Mr. Berman was willing to give the time to me. If he's still willing to do that, I'm happy to take the time needed for at least our side of the argument.
Mr. Berman?
Yes, generally that's correct, Your Honor. I just take 2 minutes just to summarize my brief.
All right, so the allocation will be 2 minutes for Mr. Berman and the balance of the time to Mr. Brennan. All right, thank you, counsel. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. We will see you on March 1st at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Thank you,
There
Judge.
being no further matters, yes? Okay, there being no further matters before the court will now stand adjourned.